You ever get that feeling that something's just a little bit off? 20 years ago, a lot of us had hobbies, things we did just for the heck of it. Now, now we mostly have screens. In a world that is screaming for our attention 24/7, we're going to talk about why those useless little activities you've probably let slide are actually the most essential tool you have, not just for success, but for your well-being, for fighting back against this quiet little war being waged on our own minds. 70. That's not just a number, it's 70 hours. That's how much time, on average, we spend staring at a screen. Every single week. I mean, just think about that for a second. That's basically 2 full-time jobs. And look, this isn't just about wasting time. It's about what all that screen time is actually doing to us. It's this slow, kind of quiet erosion of our ability to think deeply, to focus, and maybe even to just feel normal. For me, the big wake-up call was hearing a recording of my own voice. I was listening back to a meeting, and I was horrified. My thoughts were just scattered, jumping from one thing to the next, just rambling, totally fragmented. My brain had basically turned into my TikTok feed. I literally heard myself say out loud to myself what was on the screen. It was a really jarring moment. It made me realize if you don't actively practice focus, you just lose it. It just goes away. So there's actually a name for this feeling. It's called brain rot. And it's so much more than just being a little distracted. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we see and process the entire world. And it's not coming from just one place. It's kind of like a two-front attack, a pincer movement on our minds from two directions we are constantly engaging with. Okay, so here are the two fronts. On one side, you've got social media. It is designed to hijack your attention. It rewires your brain to want these super fast, constant dopamine hits, which can make actual, real life feel kind of boring. It can even lead to something called anhedonia, which is basically the inability to feel pleasure from normal stuff. Then on the other side, you've got AI. Now, AI can start to eat away at our agency. When we rely on it too much, we just stop thinking for ourselves, right? We don't double check things. Our critical mind just gets lazy. We start to outsource our own thinking. So it's really helpful to think of our brain like a muscle. And for a lot of us right now, that muscle has been stuck in a cast for years. It's getting weaker and weaker. And if social media and AI are the cast, then what's the physical therapy? What's the rehab we need to do to build that muscle back up? Well, the answer is pretty surprising, and it comes from a place you probably wouldn't expect. See, researchers spent 2 decades studying the lives and habits of Nobel Prize winners. They were looking for the patterns, right? The secret sauce that made these people different from all their other brilliant colleagues. And what they found had almost nothing to do with their actual work. What they found was pretty mind-blowing. Nobel laureates were 3 times more likely to have a serious, long-term hobby than their peers. And get this, they were 9 times more likely to have training in things like crafts, fine arts, or music. Think about that. For the smartest people on the planet, hobbies weren't a distraction from their work. They were the fuel for it. All right, so we get it. We need a hobby. But how do you pick the right one? How do you choose the thing that's actually going to be your rehab? Well, for that, there's a really simple but super powerful tool we can use. Let's call it the VIBE framework. Okay, so VIBE, it's built on a few really simple questions you can ask yourself. First, V, for vitality. Are you just constantly running on empty? Then maybe you need something physical, like dancing or climbing. Then there's I, for inquiry. Do you get bored easily? Try something that engages your mind, like learning a language or playing chess. B is for belonging. Are you feeling a little disconnected? Then look for a community, like a running club or a local band. And finally, E, for expression. Do you find that you consume way more than you create? Then you need an outlet like photography, painting, or even cooking. The whole point is to figure out which pillar you need to work on the most right now. Now, once you've picked a hobby, there is one absolutely critical rule. You have to follow this, or the whole thing is pointless. You have to protect the spirit of play. Because I'm telling you, the fastest way to kill a hobby is to turn it into a job. I love this quote. If it is for you, you'll build. If it is for them, you'll judge. Think about that. The second you introduce an audience, and it doesn't even have to be a real one, it can be an imaginary one in your head, you stop playing for yourself. You start performing for them. You start judging your progress, your output, and poof, the magic is gone. It's not for you anymore. So how do you protect your play? It's actually pretty simple. 4 rules. Rule 1, don't post it. Seriously, this is your private sanctuary. It's not content for the feed. Rule 2, focus on minutes, not metrics. The goal here is just to be engaged, not to hit some arbitrary achievement. Rule 3, start with cheap gear. Don't add financial pressure by buying a bunch of fancy stuff. And finally, Rule 4, the most important one. After you do your hobby, just ask yourself one question. Did I feel more alive? That's it. That's the only metric that matters. And let's be really, really clear about this. Your hobby doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't owe you a side hustle. It doesn't owe you a bunch of followers. It doesn't even owe you being good at it. Its only job is to give you a space to be a messy, imperfect human in a world that demands we be perfect and optimized all the time. Your hobby owes you one thing and one thing only: joy. So to wrap all this up, I want to leave you with one final idea. A little story that kind of reframes this whole conversation. It helps us see that these things we do outside of work, they aren't just distractions. They're the actual architecture of a meaningful life. So the story goes, a traveler comes across 3 stonemasons, all doing the same work. He asks the first guy, "What are you doing?" The man just grumbles back, "I'm cutting stones." He goes to the second one and asks the same question. This guy says, "I'm earning a wage to feed my family." But then he gets to the third stonemason, and when he asks him what he's doing, the man stands up, looks up at the sky, and says something totally different. He says, "I am building a cathedral." See? It's the exact same work, but it has a completely different meaning. Your hobbies, your play, your joy, these aren't just rocks you're cutting. They're the things that transform a life of just doing tasks into a cathedral of meaning. So the only question left to ask yourself is, what cathedral are you building?